restrain. Your love is wild. Your love is wild for me. It isn't shy. It's unashamed. Your love is proud to be seen with me. To be seen with me. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Uncontrolled, uncontained, your love is a fire, burning bright for me. It's not just a spark, it's not just a flame. Your love is light, and all the world will see. All the world will see. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. Your love's not passive, it's never disengaged, it's always present. It hangs on every word we say. Love keeps its promises. It keeps its word. It honors what's sacred, 'cause its vows are good. Your love's not broken. It's not insecure. Your love's not selfish. Your love is pure. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. You don't give your heart in. 'Cause its vows are good. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. Your love's not passive, it's never disengaged, it always present. It hangs on every word we say. Love keeps its promises. It keeps its word. It honors what's sacred, 'cause its vows are good. Your love's not broken. It's not insecure. Your love's not selfish. Your love is pure. You don't give your heart in pieces.
recognizing that our gifts are from God, and that our gifts back to the church are part of our worship, that we believe in God, we trust what He has in store for us, and that we want to help our neighbors.
Living your life trying to value compassion and the values of others more than your own values.
For me, as a follower of Jesus Christ and the Spirit of God living in me and showing me, and I'm seeing through His eyes, seeing all the hurt and the pain that people have in this world, it is my job to be bold and to not be afraid to share the good news with them, to tell them that there is someone who cares.
To me, living a generous life is reflecting more on being thankful for what we have versus what we don't have.
To be generous and open is the way a person can be a loving, giving Christian, and doing it with this church, with your gifts and your service, is the right way, is what Christ wanted us to do.
That's Christ's example, and it's not all about us and what's best for us alone. We're meant to live in community and to be generous and kind and giving and loving, not just of our money, but of our time.
For me, living a generous life is about being able to share the gifts that we have with all people, especially people who are in less good circumstances.
It's for sharing our blessings with the community. I feel like we give a lot to this community. This is a very tight-knit community in our church, in our area. Even in San Antonio, it's still a small town, and we feel like that we're lucky to be able to bless future generations to come.
Reaching out and trying to identify people that need something, whether it be monetarily or whether it's just a smile or a handshake or a hug.
I have learned over my time at AHUMC that living a generous life means living a life of abundance. There has never been a time in this church with these people where there wasn't enough to go around. There was always enough patience, always enough love, always enough kindness and imagination and perseverance. And it's caused me to live that same way in my own life.
Pray with me. Gracious and generous God, we are grateful for the opportunity to gather in this time, in this space for worship. Lord, we want to focus our lives, our attention on you, on all that is good, on all that is abundant. You are good. You are generous. You do not give sparingly, but you give good things. Lord, the kingdom is all around us. Would you open our eyes to see who you are and what you are doing? Amen. Today is Commitment Sunday in the life of our church, and you should have received in the mail a commitment card for the stewardship campaign for 2021 as we set the budget for 2021 for this congregation. And I hope that you have prayerfully considered how you want to partner with this church. You can return these commitment cards anytime during worship or after worship in the offering boxes. There's one on either side of the CLC. Or you can open up the church website and find a commitment card on the church website and do that either now or sometime this week. You know, 2020 has been a really weird and uncertain year. And if things look uncertain for your household in 2021, I hope that you would, on this card, on the blank that says what you will give, just write the word prayer. And we will know that you are partnering with us, and we will be in prayer for you and your household. Whatever 2021 has in store for us, we will do it together. We will partner together. As you are here this morning, if you are here in this particular space with me live and in person, I would ask that you have registered your attendance here. Either you did that before you got here, or open up the website online and let us know that you are here now. I'm glad that you are here.
Speaking of weird things, we do something in our worship services that might seem weird. We say this strange prayer called the Shema. And we say a little bit of it in Hebrew, and you might see people raise their pinkies in the air, and it might just feel a little weird. Just know that we do that because we don't see the Christian faith as detached from our Jewish brothers and sisters. We see it as rooted. We recognize that Jesus and all the disciples and all the writers of the Bible were, in fact, Jewish. And we follow in the footsteps when we practice prayers like this. And so we're going to say this. I'm going to invite those who are in the room to stand together with me, and we're going to say the first part of this prayer in Hebrew. This prayer comes from Deuteronomy 6 and Leviticus 19. And it's actually the answer that Jesus gives in the Gospels when he is asked, what is the most important commandment? He doesn't make something up out of thin air. He actually quotes Deuteronomy 6. So we follow in the footsteps of Jesus as we declare this together. I invite you to join with me. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
From Psalm 123. Up toward you I lift my eyes. Look, as manservants raise eyes towards masters, as maidservants raise eyes toward mistresses, humble and expectant in reflected gratefulness, so do we direct our gaze up to you. Reflect on our souls your clear light, enlarge our hearts. For we are diminished and dimmed with the world's opinions, diminished and dimmed with possessions and worry, with accomplishments under tow, with reputation's crazy wind, oppressed by the disdaining other, inside and out.
We seek to honor one another in this place. For those online and those in the room, please honor the people you see next to you by sharing the peace of Christ. The peace of Christ be with you all.
Stir in me a love that's deep, a love that's wide, a love that's sweet, and help me, Lord, to never keep it to myself. And if my heart should dimly burn, and if my feet should fail to run, call my name and I will come right back to you. 'Cause there's more fear in love. There's more fear in love. Stir in me a love that's deep, a love that's wide, a love that's sweet, and help me, Lord, to never keep it to myself. And if my heart should dimly burn, and if my feet should fail to run, call my name and I will come right back to you. 'Cause there's no fear in love. stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you, just as simple as this song. I want to stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you my whole life long. I want to stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you, just as simple as this song. I want to stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you my whole life long. Oh, 'cause there's no fear in love. There's no fear in love. There's no I want to stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you, just as simple as this song. I want to stay close to you. It's really that simple. I want to stay close to you my whole life long.
I'm really passionate about the power we have to name and frame what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I mean both in our personal lives and in our common life. And how we, we've kind of given ourselves over to assumptions about what matters, like, if you can put an economic benefit or cost against a social problem, then it becomes a serious thing that we can all talk about. Well, I'm passionate about being a facilitator of, creating the language that we can share in our public life to talk about things in human terms and in spiritual terms, so that we can really talk about, what's at stake, instead of turning everything into an issue or a position or a debate. And I believe that's possible, and I believe that there's a real longing to break out of these boxes we've been in. Part of what gives me hope is how artificial I see those constructions to be. And they're ingrained and they become instinctive, but they're not necessary. And so I think that once we become conscious of them, we can shake them off. And then I also, I do believe, and I experience in my world of listeners and guests, our kind of community of listeners, that people want to be called to be their best selves. In fact, they want.
Where are you seeing generosity?
Oh, I see generosity everywhere. Again, it's something that we do need to call forth in ourselves and others. We have to create spaces where it's safe to be generous. We have to. In this sense, I think we get to be really realistic about who we are as creatures, right? And science is actually our companion in this now. We're learning so, as we learn about our brains and our bodies in all these new ways, and how our thinking and our behavior and our physiology is all connected. We have so much knowledge to work with, and that knowledge, the more we take that in, is a source of power. And so it's helping us understand things. I think it helps be more forgiving of ourselves. That when we are threatened or when we feel threatened, and those are essentially the same things, does not bring out the best in us. We get defensive, we fight. Fearfulness brings out the worst in us, and it's precisely in moments of great challenge and great promise where we need to be calling forth the best in ourselves and others. But to understand the reality of that. And so to create more generous public spaces, again, we have to start with these really basic things like creating safety, creating an expectation that we will honor the dignity of each other, even if we don't agree, or we're not on the same side, or we're not alike. That sounds...
That was author and interviewer Krista Tippett, and she has the podcast that's called On Being. And I think what I admire most about what she was saying and who she is that she's intentional about creating a generous space. That's what I want to be about. Today, a parable and a warning, a lengthy commentary on the parables of Jesus says that this particular story is not a favorite. The commentary says many people do not like this parable. But I find those words to be encouraging. Biblical scholar Amy Jill Levine says that a good parable afflicts the comfortable. So brace yourself. Prepare to be afflicted. From Matthew 25, beginning with verse 14. For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the one who received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you are a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master replied, You wicked and lazy slave. You knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one with 10 talents. For all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is a story of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. I had the great, good pleasure this week of watering the plants at my house with my 3-year-old niece. The task required 2 watering cans, one hefty, regular-sized for me, and a pint-sized watering can for the pint-sized girl. Right as we began our chore, she said, "Aunt Dinah, there's dirt on my hands." "Yes," I said, "it's okay." But she put her watering can down on the step to the front door of my house and she froze. "My hands are dirty." "Yeah, that happens when you're outside working in the garden. It's okay." But she wasn't reassured, and she didn't move. And so I asked her, "Do you want me to get a towel for your hands?" "Oh, yes, please," she said with a big smile. "I don't want dirt on my hands." In many ways, I think this is the best learning from this particular parable in Matthew's gospel. I don't want dirt on my hands. To bury the talent, to hide it in the ground, well, it would have been a common security measure. It's a reasonable move, but it's not at all pleasing to the master. Digging in the ground and burying the talent sets in motion words and actions of harsh judgment. It's not what is expected, and it's not what is desired. This poor third slave, Preacher Ellsworth Callis calls him the underdog, the timid soul. And I don't know about you, but I am always a fan of the underdog, cheering on the one who has very little chance to win. Because really, is there anything better than watching the one who's expected to lose take it all? That's a great thing. Each of the three servants is given an amount according to their ability, the text says. That's the setup. And this third guy is given the smallest amount. He's given just one. He clutches it tightly and buries it in the ground. He has dirt on his hands. And the reason the text says it, he's afraid. He says so in verse 25. "I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground." One thing that you should know about a talent, as the word was originally used in this story, is that it is a huge sum of money. The NIV Bible uses the phrase bag of gold instead of the word talent. A talent is equivalent to the wages of a day laborer for about 15 to 20 years. One talent could be $250,000 to $500,000 today. It's definitely enough to intimidate, to stir up some fear, to think, why me? What in the world have I been entrusted with? A talent has some weight. It comes with a great deal of responsibility. I wish I had a video to show you of the pastors talking about this parable. We had some fun this week on Zoom talking about the meaning of this parable. I put it out there that the biblical scholar N.T. Wright suggests that the wicked servant digging in the dirt is the scribes and the Pharisees, because the leaders of the faith were given wonderful promises to bless the world. And instead of being a light to the world, they bury the light. The warning is then don't do the very same thing that they did. Don't bury the light that is for all the world. But Darrell suggested that the 5 talents might represent the 5 books of Torah, and the 2 talents could be the 2 tablets that were given to Moses, the law that he brought down from Sinai. And Ryan said, then the 1 talent could be God's self, Jesus the Messiah, and that the enmeshed faith and political leaders of the world killed him. They put him in the ground where there was weeping and gnashing of teeth. I do have the great privilege of working with some brilliant people. The meaning would then be trust the generous master, because the generous master gives his very self to you. Really, there are several different solid possibilities for the meaning of this parable, as there is with any of Jesus's parables. Amy Jill Levine wrote a book on Jesus's parables. It's called Short Stories by Jesus. And she says that when considering a parable, it's less about what a parable means, and it's more about what a parable does. Parables are not to make us feel better. They're not happily ever after stories. A parable is there to unlock our thinking, to help us see things in a new light. And when I think about what this story does to me, where it afflicts me, it's on the topic of fear. Fear wants to tell me what to do, to fight or to run. Fear tells me to protect. Fear tells me to bury what I have in the ground, to play it safe, to keep things the same. Letting fear dictate the course of action is never the best course. Brené Brown says that one of the biggest learnings in the book, Rising Strong, for her, is that we as a culture don't know how to be afraid. None of us know how to be afraid. Brown says that used to, when she was afraid, she would get perfect, she would get controlling, she would get to blaming, she would get mean, or she would run. But the thing is, almost anything that is worth doing in this life stirs up some fear in us. So Brené Brown says that she had to learn how to be afraid. And you know who taught her how to be afraid? You know what taught her to be afraid? She says grace. She says grace taught her to be afraid, like the hymn, Amazing Grace. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. Grace can teach us how to be afraid. Grace says to us, it's okay, hang in there, have heart, have courage. You can do this. And in the doing, after the doing, the fear is relieved. As the hymn goes. Here's what I imagine about that parable. What I imagine to be true about that parable is that the third servant is not the only servant to be afraid. I imagine that both the first and the second were afraid too. We don't hear about it because they move beyond it. They take this heavy responsibility that's given to them and they risk. They step out and there's growth. Fear is relieved. For the first and second servants, fear doesn't get to make a claim. Fear doesn't get to define their experience. It is instead dismissed. I'm super pleased that my 3-year-old niece knows what she wants for Christmas this year. It makes things easier on me. She says that Uncle Keith is the one who can get her this present, which surprises me because Uncle Keith doesn't do much of the shopping. But here's what she wants. She wants to hold a dead fish. She wants to hold a dead fish in her hands. Can you believe that she would ask for that? She did. That's sure going to get her hands dirty. But the thing about it is, I believe that's the right kind of dirty. That's the I stared fear right in the eye and I didn't blink dirty. She's getting an earlier start than I did. I never asked for a dead fish for Christmas. But I think that she might just become a fisherwoman. I think that could be true. Because more often than not in this life, God multiplies the gifts of the responsibilities that we take on with fear and trembling. Not too many years ago, I was pushed back into a couple of difficult conversations by a mentor that I had that I lovingly referred to as Coach Todd. Todd was a life coach, a faith coach, and I can remember saying to Coach Todd, I really don't want to put myself out there. These conversations are not safe. It could hurt. It could smell. Boundaries are a very Christian thing, Todd. There's a set of books on boundaries. I know, I've read them. And Coach Todd saying back to me, Dinah, if Jesus is your model, you'll do it. You'll do it anyway. You'll be generous. You'll be vulnerable. You'll take the risk. Even if it stinks, and even when it hurts, all will be well. Christian author Annie Dillard once said, I know that when there is any deprivation or fear, the solution for me is to give. Giving is the way I feel abundant. To give, to be generous, that's the antidote to fear. Chapter 25 of Matthew sits in this section of scripture where the repeated theme is be alert. Be alert, be watchful, you must be ready. The Son of Man could come at any unexpected time. And for much of my life, I've been led to believe that this warning is that I should be on the lookout for the harsh master who will return with a vengeance. But now I think differently. Now I think I'm to keep my eyes peeled for fear, to be alert for fear. The very end of chapter 25 of Matthew's gospel, what immediately follows this parable is the separation of the sheep from the goats. What's the distinguishing factor? The distinguishing factor is that they give. It's that they're generous. The distinguishing factor is generosity. I intend for this place, for this space, to be a place that calls out the best in every one of us, myself included, where there is opportunity to risk generosity. We will be on the lookout for fear, and we will not give fear the microphone. We'll stand with our palms wide open, prepared to hold whatever gift is next. Will you pray with me? Eternal God, you do not leave us or forsake us. You give good gifts. We ask this day that you would stir up courage in every single one of us, that we will take the risks needed that lead to spiritual growth. You are generous. We want to be recognized as your children. We want to look like you. We ask these things in the name of the one who generously risked everything, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
When all your hopes are shattered and you feel like your soul is at sea, your dreams don't seem to matter, your heart is bruised and battered, you can't feel anything. Love anyway. Love anyway. When your world has gone to hell, no story left to tell. Love anyway. fragile fate. I've been the victim and the villain in the story that I've written. Owner of a heart that's slow to change. Love anyway. Love anyway. When your world has gone to hell, no story left to tell. Love anyway. Broken promises, truth and consequence, pride and tenderness, all those failed attempts, joy and happiness, joy and happiness, joy and happiness. Love anyway. Love story left to tell. Love anyway.
If I could pick my career again, I might choose weather forecaster because I love my weather app and I love to watch the weather on the news. So I'm going to take this opportunity to give you the spiritual forecast. Are you ready? The fear is thick out there. It is thick. The instruction is love anyway. Choose generosity. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Go in peace, my friends.
Wasting time, wasting money. You've been acting like a fool. Spend your whole life fighting for a guarantee, when all you really need is a friend. There's a good light shining in you. There's a magic in your eyes.
The confusion is dragging you down. You got lost in the chaos. You got lost in the ashes and dust. What you needed was someone to trust. Hey, there's a good light shining in you. There's a magic in your eyes. Hey, there's a good light shining through. I need it tonight. We're all stumbling through the dark. No one can stay there and still make it through. Hey, there's a good light shining in you. There's a magic in your eyes. Hey, there's a good light shining through. I need it tonight. I need it tonight. Amen. Peace. We miss you if you're still out there on the cameras. We love you. See you soon.